Hey Smashers and Smashettes, it's Skynerd here from The Roost once again, bringing you today another episode. And today I was able to get TJ onto my show, and it's been just a great honor and privilege to actually get on an interview with him. As you guys know, down below is his social media, so feel free to give him some love if you guys like this episode. And as you know, it's that time of the day, it's time for the question. And the question for today is, what's your favorite Yoshi game? With that being said, guys, if you guys are interested in this interview series, and you'd like to be on the show, feel free to follow me on any of my social media, which is in the description. And just leave a comment and we can set up a time for an interview. With that being said, let's jump into this episode of Inside the Mind of a Smasher, and as always, I'll see you guys in future installments. Thanks for watching. Hey guys, Skynerd here from The Roost, bringing you today another installment of my series Inside the Mind of a Smasher. And today I've got with me TJ. TJ, how's it going?
Going well. How are you doing?
I'm doing quite alright. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day for this episode.
Not a problem.
So, TJ, what's your gamer tag?
Doublenickels.
How did you come up with Doublenickels?
When I played baseball several years ago in high school, my number was 55, and so my teammates would refer to me as Doublenickels, and I just went with it.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Who's your main?
I main Yoshi, and then I play a little bit of Wario and King Dedede every now and then.
Okay, and what made you decide to pick up Yoshi?
Well, I've been playing Yoshi since, back in the olden days of Melee, back when Ken was playing, 04, 05.
Mm-hmm.
And so, he's just always been my main, and I've always stuck with him.
Okay, what would you say is your main game?
That would be Smash 4. I've been out of practice with Melee for so long that I don't even bother with it.
Okay, and what's your PR ranking in your scene?
In Wyoming right now, I am power ranked number 1. The power ranking's a little bit out of date, though. I'll probably slide down to 2 or 3 here pretty soon.
Who would you say is above you, then?
There is an up-and-coming player named Blackwave. He plays Ike and Roy, and he might climb up to number 1 at this point. And then there's a couple of people who might be above me. Gravel Crusher, Ness Main from Gillette, Wyoming. And then there's a Mega Man main that I've lost to a couple of times, but I've also placed higher than him, so I'm not sure how the power ranking will work out there.
So Doublenickels, what exactly are your origins of Smash? How did you get into competitive Smash play for Smash 4?
Well, a long time ago, when I was 12 or 13, 04, 05, my cousin and I played a lot of Melee and Smash 64 together, and both of us decided we kind of wanted to get into the tournament scene. And at the time, there wasn't really anything in Wyoming, so I started going to tournaments at people's houses in Utah. And then from there, I kept going, and then around the time Brawl came out, I took a break from the game and started playing baseball, went off to college, and then I graduated from college around the same time Smash 4 came out, and I picked it up and really enjoyed it and started going to tournaments again.
Okay, and that really just kind of got you more invigorated in becoming a competitive Smash player.
I think so. I think a new game, and one where Yoshi, who I was going to main no matter what, was actually pretty good, and there wasn't as much tech skill that I had to catch up on with other players. So it was a good fresh start to get back into competitive Smash.
Okay, yeah, I can feel you on that. And I think having character loyalty is awesome. Kudos to you for that, because I like it. So thank you. What would you say is one of your favorite stages in Smash 4? And it can be competitive, and it can also be a non-legal stage.
I think for a non-legal stage, I like Yoshi's Woolly World just because I like Yoshi. But as far as a competitive stage, my go-to is always Battlefield, just because I like using the platforms to extend combos, or using them to, get away from someone who's shooting a lot of projectiles, things like that.
Okay. So we're gonna dive in from stages. We're gonna go into a game now, okay? So during a match, what's your thoughts on using music, whether it's in-game or headphones?
I think it can be really useful for a lot of people, And especially psychologically speaking, you get music that, it helps you get into a groove, helps you focus, or gets you pumped up. It can really be effective, and I know that there's a lot of research on it. However, personally, I prefer not to use music because I feel like it distracts me.
I can feel you on that. When I'm in a game and I'm listening to music, I really hate it when I don't have my playlist set and I just have music going, and then I'm jamming out to my song, I'm getting the groove going, and then all of a sudden I get like this soft song of just, violins or something, and I'm just like, what am I doing? I can't beat him like this. Totally throws off my focus. So I definitely see where you're coming from. What's your thoughts on hydration and food? What do you normally do to prepare for a tournament?
Usually what I do is I make sure I'm really, really hydrated. And, of course, I consume a lot of caffeine as well. So I try to keep myself awake, keep myself hydrated. As far as food goes, right before a tournament, I don't like to eat a whole lot right before the bracket starts, because then, I don't know, I feel lethargic. I don't feel as energized if I eat right before.
Mm-hmm.
Eating a good breakfast that morning, like several hours before, I think helps keep me awake and keeps me going. I don't necessarily eat anything specific, but it's just the timing of when I eat things, I think, that I use to prepare.
Okay, I can definitely jive with you on that one. I think having a good mental state is very important when you're going into a tournament, and I feel that being hydrated and having, maybe like a Coca-Cola or a Pepsi, not sponsored, nobody sponsored me, I promise. But, Mountain Dew, Doritos, gaming energy of champs. But I'm not sponsored for them. I'm just saying that out there. I think it's good to have, good mental state, be a little more energized than average, and I feel like if you eat too much, then you really, like you said, you start to feel queasy and lethargic and stuff. And so I feel that being properly hydrated and having, a good amount of food keeps your mental state alert and prepared for whatever situation comes up. With that being the case as well, what's your thoughts on coaching during a set?
I think it can be really helpful. I know some people debate whether it should be allowed or not, and I think as long as there's time limit sets, like say 30 seconds or so, that should be okay. Because I really do think that some people, it's really helpful for them to have somebody else point out, hey, here's where you're getting a little too aggressive, or like you're throwing out a laggy move here, just to help them get back in that mental state, or even just somebody to reassure them. I mean, sometimes it's a confidence thing, and they just need someone to tell them, you've got it, you're a good player, you just made a mistake, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Naturally, we like to be competitive, and we consider ourselves competitive Smash 4 players in our states and areas. What do you think about coaching during, top 8 with, those main notable players? Do you feel like that should still be allowed?
I'm not 100% sure. All I know is that if there is a rule, it needs to apply to everybody, and everybody has to know what the rule is. That rule has to be made available either way. Personally, I would like to see it allowed, but I also understand there's the argument that one person may not have a coach available, and that might be an unfair advantage, or that it may even, take up time on a stream for, entertainment and viewership purposes. I would like to see it allowed. I understand the arguments for it not being allowed in some cases, but whatever it is, it just needs to be available so that the competitors know going in what the ground rules are and what they can expect, and what kind of support they can bring with them.
Gotcha. The universal rule that applies to everyone, pretty much. I get you. We're going to go into a little bit of your past tournaments. What's a tournament that you've recently attended, and to dive into a match that you've been in recently? So who have you fought in a tournament recently?
I fought against Foe at the June Smash Jam in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Okay.
And that's the highest profile person I've ever played against, so that was definitely interesting to me.
So what was your mentality during that match? What were you thinking?
Going in, I will admit I was a little bit nervous, like just not wanting to get embarrassed was my goal for the first game. But then after the first game, I played with him competitively enough that my thought was, hey, I'm I'm not scared anymore. I'm going to try to win this second game. Unfortunately, I came up a little bit short, but it was a really close match, and I know it sounds kind of silly, but it was just a good moment for me personally to know, hey, I can hang with some of the best players. I may not have beaten them, but I can hang with them.
And so that was a good mental boost for you.
Yeah, it really was.
Well, that's awesome that you got to fight Foe. That's pretty amazing, so nice job. Would you say that he's probably been your hardest fight?
Interestingly enough, even though he's probably the best player I've fought against and the highest profile, I actually think the toughest match I've ever fought, toughest player I've ever fought, goes by SOTW, and he's a Mega Man main from Wyoming. And whatever it is, I don't know if it's the lemon, but I just have such a tough time dealing with it. And I've beaten him a few times, he's beaten me a few times, but it's just so mentally draining to play against him that I think that's probably the toughest. Those are the toughest sets I fight.
So, would you say that Mega Man is your hardest matchup, or what is your hardest matchup?
Hardest matchup, for me, it's really anybody with longer disjoints. So Mega Man's got a few of them, but then like sword characters like, say, Marth or Ike are really difficult for me as Yoshi, and that's why I keep DDD in my pocket, because even though that may not be a good matchup for DDD, at least I can try to play the range game with them and not have to worry so much about getting walled out by it.
Gotcha. Match up disjoints with disjoints, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I can understand that. So, Doublenickels, what's your goal? What is it that you want to accomplish with Smash 4?
Really, my goal is to just have something I can be competitive in to, get away for the weekend from work, because, work gets stressful, life gets stressful, and my goal is not to be the best player in the world. It's not to win a major tournament. I do this as a hobby, and I just like having something competitive to do. And so I'm also trying to work on growing the Wyoming Smash scene, and we've made a whole lot of games within the past year. And so I think that's my biggest thing, is having something to just take the edge off, go do something fun, clean, but still in a competitive environment.
I definitely can agree with you on that. Something just to kind of relax and kick back with. I feel you. So, Doublenickels, thank you very much for sharing that, by the way. Would you say that you have any sponsors?
I don't really have a sponsor. I think the closest thing would be Wyoming Smash House. That's the name we use for a lot of our Wyoming events if they're not held by some other organization. So I think that would be the closest thing to a sponsor that I have, but I don't get any money from them to travel or anything like that. Okay.
So, as we're wrapping up here, do you have any advice that you want to give to the newer generation of Smashers and just people who want to get into the competitive scene in general?
I think the biggest piece of advice I have is that even though you want to continue to improve and your goal may be to be the best Smasher in the world, to just don't forget to have fun with it, because at some point we're all going to be at a point in our lives, no matter how far away it is, where we're not going to be able to do it anymore. And this is the same way I felt when I had to hang up my cleats for baseball when I was done with college, is that, I wish I had spent more time having fun and enjoying the game instead of worrying about every little mistake I made and getting, mad at other people on my team, or so like my doubles partner, if I was to compare it to Smash, or, getting mad at my opponent, because it's just not worth it. It's a game, and you need to have fun with it and enjoy it while you're young, because it's not going to last forever.
Yeah. Thank you very much for those, for your wisdom and kind words. And yeah, I really appreciate you saying that. So thank you very much. Before we go, do you have any shout outs that you'd like to give to anyone?
I have quite a few, but I'm going to try to keep it short.
Man, no worries.
Mainly to the surrounding states from Wyoming, especially the Utah scene, because I've been a part of that scene for a little bit of time now, and the Utah scene's always been really welcoming to me. And in particular, I'd like to thank Bellsworth for, being able to house me every now and then when I come down, and just being really hospitable. Mm-hmm. And then in the Wyoming scene, I'd like to give a shout out to gravel crusher. He has been our guy who's been, making stream layouts. He's been helping me TO, and it's just been so helpful having him.
Cool. Well, Doublenickels, thanks again so much for taking the time out of your day for this interview. I really appreciate it.
Yep, thanks for having me on.
As always, guys, don't forget to check out Doublenickels. I've got all his social media down below. He's been an amazing player, and we look forward to seeing you progress more in the future, and we're hoping that you reach that PR ranking #1 again.
All right, I'm shooting for it.
Well, thank you so much, and have a great day.
All right, you do the same, Skynerd.
All right, take care. Bye.